Hey folks, Lemonade here, and today we finally get to look at some GWolves mice, and specifically their fingertip offerings. Some of the most unique and interesting shapes in our hobby, but does making half a mouse really work better for this grip style? We're going to get into all that right after this. Small disclaimer, I did purchase the HSK Plus with my own money, but due to a small QC issue, GWolves sent me another unit free of charge and then threw in the HSK Pro to compare. Obviously, free stuff doesn't change my opinions on a product ever, and you are seeing this review as early as they are. Okay, let's knock out the specs real quick and I'll throw those right up here for you. Let's chat about a few things right out the gate. First one is the big question, which we will be answering towards the end of the video. Are mice shaped like this the ultimate fingertip form, and do they replace my main mouse, the Finalmouse Last Legend in small? Secondly, we're going to touch on QC. Now, on my original copy, which is this guy here, by the way, I'm doing a giveaway that's currently active, and I'll be picking a winner for this mouse on Sunday, June 18th. Go to my Twitter and enter now. Now, the actual mouse itself is fine. The only issue I had with it was that the scroll wheel would register in the wrong direction when scrolling at times, so scrolling down would register up or vice versa. And since it couldn't be fixed with some basic troubleshooting, that's why I got another copy, and hopefully this one can find a new home. Now, these two mice here, the new ones, have been perfect, and I'm honestly shocked. A big reason why I haven't reviewed GWolves mice, beyond some of the drama around them as a brand, was their QC. But these really just have no creaking or flexing anywhere. I mean, maybe the bottom of the mouse a little bit, like a flex if you kind of push into it. But overall, for their size and super low weight, I was expecting them to feel pretty cheap. Compare that to my Finalmouse, which has that wonky scroll wheel and a bit of flex on the sides. You can watch that video if you choose to do so. And on top of all that, the buttons here feel amazing. From mouse 1 and 2 to the scroll wheel click to the side buttons, they're all very satisfying and feel on both copies. Now let's cover the packaging so you know what to expect in the box, and luckily for both they are exactly the same. All that. So you get a hairbrush here, these two plastic picks, a rubber micro USB cable, and a braided micro USB cable, a smaller battery, full coverage grip tape, 2 extra set of skates, and a label for the bottom of the mouse. Yeah, that's a lot of shit. And honestly, this is a big plus to GWolves. They literally included everything someone would need for their mouse, and some stuff that is a bit head scratching, but hey, I can't fault them. They are definitely giving you your money's worth. Which brings me to the battery. It is smaller than the original, and you also have another felt pad so that it can stick onto it. Again, it's smaller, so you're gonna have to charge your mouse more often. We'll get on battery life in a little bit, but it can save you a few grams if you prefer that. The plastic picks are used to turn on the mouse right here. So yes, unfortunately, you won't really be able to use your finger or nail on these to turn it on or off. Not a design choice I like. For example, on Finalmouse, they have this too, but they make it accessible via finger. You can just turn that on and you're ready to go. Now we have 2 sets of cables, and it's a bit odd, so I'll explain it. The rubber one here should be used for your receiver for a stable connection, as it helps with interference. And the braided one is designed for charging. Now, I'm not sure how much that really matters, as pretty much every single one of my other mice has one cable in the box, and it's a braided cable, and I've never run into interference, but GWolves didn't need to spend the extra money to throw both cables in, so clearly it matters enough to them. Now, for me personally, I just use the rubber cable and leave the other one in the box, so whatever. Do note that the rubber cable is a bit shorter, so your mileage may vary, but hey, again, you got them both. Now onto the switches, and on paper they're using the same zippy switches, but I believe that the HSK Pro lineup has the slightly updated zippies, because they are definitely much crispier sounding overall and have a bit more tactility, and that also goes for the feel of the scroll wheel itself. Take a listen. That said, the whole lineup should be receiving these revamped zippy switches within time, so just be on the lookout. And in terms of pre and post travel between the two, the Plus has a little bit more post travel than the Pro. Onto the sensor itself, as you saw, it's a 3395 and it has 4K support. And it feels great, as it should. And my polling stability test confirms that, and it performs pretty neck and neck with Razer's implementation. That being said, you're going to need to keep some things in mind with 4K polling. Some games or aim trainers just might not play nice with it, but it could also just be your setup. There is help in their Discord, and you can also look up some guides, but the short and sweet answer is disable HBT, have the USB receiver plugged into its own USB hub, and probably run some Windows optimizations like timer resolution. You also want a fairly capable CPU. Now, in my experience when I was playing on Fortnite, I did have some stutters out the gate, but after doing all of what I just said, it's been perfectly fine. Currently, I play a little Fortnite, mainly Overwatch though, and some Black Desert and Aim Beast, and for those titles, it's been really solid. Now, if you notice stutters that can't be addressed, you always have the option to drop these down to 2K or of course 1K polling rate. Now, my personal experience in-game using 4K versus 1K, this is like the longest I've legit used 4K. I don't really use it too much on my Razer, and I just don't really have a benefit. But that's really due to the fact that I only have a 165 Hz monitor, so take that with a grain of salt. If you want some perceivable benefit from 4K, you should aim to at least have a 240 or preferably a 360 Hz monitor. Which of course brings me to battery life. When we're talking about 4K, in my experience, I would say expect about 1 to 3 days maximum on these stock batteries, and obviously a lot lower if you use the smaller battery. So you're going to be charging these daily, definitely if you're a heavier user or you only use this as your main mouse all day long. Now, I normally have a separate section for software, but I'm going to mention it here because it kind of ties in. The software has an advanced power mode section which dynamically adjusts your polling rate from 4K, 2K, or 1K, and it lowers it to 500 Hz when you're not gaming. That said, in the Discord, I've seen users complain it's not always consistent feeling when they're gaming, so your mileage may vary. I would say, if one thing, they should update the debalance and advanced power section to show values instead of letters. It would save some users from going to the Discord to look up the answers. The short answer, though, is just keep it on letter A and turn advanced power off. The coating on the mice is, well, non-existent. It's just regular plastic filling. So if you have sweaty hands, you're definitely going to need some grip tape on these. The included grip tape may not match the color of your mouse because it's always black, but hey, it's free and it's high quality and it gets the job done. In terms of skates, they're honestly fine on both. I hear people complain a lot about GWolves skates, but unless you really want to min-max with Tiger Ice or core pads, save your money. I mean, you have 3 sets for free here. In terms of the Plus, it does have like divots on the skates, so you're a little limited in your choices, but the Pro here is flat bottom, so you have a little bit more variability in what skates you can use. Which leads me to the most important thing of any mouse review, shape. But first, let's knock out the Rocket Jump Ninja weight to size ratios. The Plus comes in at a 0.82 to 1 ratio, and the Pro comes in at a 0.74 to 1 ratio. But weight is a bit tricky. Obviously, the Pro is incredibly light and really the lightest in my collection, but the Plus is interesting. See, now at 41 grams, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a heavy mouse. It's not. But when I compare it to my 41 gram Finalmouse in small, it does feel a bit more dense even at the same weight. You see, with the Plus, you're concentrating all of that weight in a more central location right under your fingertips, versus on the Finalmouse, you're spreading that weight more across a larger surface area. Which is why when I do the same size to weight ratio, the Finalmouse comes out at a 0.66 to 1. Now let's get into the shape, the pricing, and are these two particular mice worth it? Between the HSK Pro and the Plus, I'm gonna have to pick the Plus. I don't know, that's probably a shocker for a lot of people, but for one main reason, the size. So for my 19.5 by 10 centimeter hands, I just feel a bit more comfortable on the Plus. Its increased vertical room and length just gives my fingers a bit more natural area to adjust when needed for stability. The Plus also feels a bit more like really an X2 Mini with the rear chopped off. Also, the placement of these side buttons, while controversial for some, just work better for me. On the Pro, I find myself almost pushing out the rear side of it when I try to click the side buttons because, well, they're located on the rear. That being said, the Pro was purpose built to keep you in a specific style of fingertip grip, so I can't fault it, and for hands smaller than mine, this may work out beautifully. Now, I can definitely use this and have had awesome moments with it. It's just not something I could use like all day and main all day, especially when we're talking outside of gaming, you know, while I'm editing or browsing. The Plus just feels more natural and versatile in that respect. And so comes the showdown, Finalmouse Small versus the HSK Plus. And it's really honestly tough. I love them both, but I really got to give it to Finalmouse, just slightly above 4 fingertip. And just hear me out. The weight balancing on the Finalmouse is just purely nicer due to its overall shape. The side button placement and size, they're just larger and more separated and easier to feel out. The grip width tapers to a much more narrow spot for tighter control, and you still retain that good room to adjust your fingers because of the vertical room and length, just like the HSK Plus had over the Pro. That being said, in my eyes, I think GWolves is like one mouse away from making the best fingertip mouse on the planet, and it's really a kind of hybrid of these two. All they have to do is take the Plus shape and just taper down the sides to about 54 millimeters, so it's a bit more narrow and angular. Slightly separate the side buttons. I think the size is fine if they're just separated in texture a little bit, so it's easier to feel out, and work on lowering the weight a little bit more, and boom, perfection, especially considering its shorter overall length to the Finalmouse and allowing for greater movement on the inside of your hand. All that said, of course, while I love my Finalmouse, this is definitely going to be staying on my desk, and I'm going to be using it alongside it. At 170 bucks, it's a lot to ask, but there is really no clear competition, and it's very innovative. Plus, they pack it with the latest tech and goodies in the box. And if you don't need 4K, they have a base version for around 100 bucks. Major props to GWolves for innovating, providing unique shapes in our hobby, and producing them much quicker than most companies. And on that note, folks, all my socials are, of course, down below, along with any affiliate links for the brands that I trust and use on a daily basis, including one for GWolves. Use code LEMONADE on any peripherals to save a few bucks, or code UpgradeLemonade to sign up with our new channel partner Surfshark to get an extra 3 months free. If you had a good time with me today, of course, likes and subs are always appreciated. Leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on fingertip mice. But until the next Fresh Squeeze video, stay thirsty, folks.